The message from the void. The red dust of Mars swirled around Dr. Elena Vasquez as she knelt beside the excavation site. After 3 years of searching, her team had finally uncovered something that shouldn't exist, a crystalline structure buried deep beneath the Martian surface, pulsing with an energy signature that defied known physics. "Elena, you need to see the carbon dating results," called Marcus Chen, her colleague and the mission's lead archaeologist. His voice crackled through the comm system, barely audible over the howling Martian wind. "This thing is over 50,000 years old." Elena's heart raced as she carefully extracted the crystal from its ancient resting place. The moment her gloved fingers touched its surface, the artifact began to glow with an inner light that seemed to reach directly into her mind. Data streams flooded her consciousness. Mathematical equations, star charts, and something else. Something that felt like regret. Back at the Mars Research Station, the team worked through the night to decode the crystal's message. What they discovered changed everything humanity thought it knew about its place in the universe. "It's a confession," Elena announced to the assembled scientists, her voice heavy with the weight of revelation. "We weren't alone. We were abandoned." The crystal contained the history of the Sentinel Alliance, a confederation of 12 advanced species that had watched Earth from afar for millennia. According to the message, they had discovered humanity during its earliest days and made a calculated decision. Humans possessed something they called quantum consciousness, a unique neural pattern that allowed their minds to exist partially outside normal spacetime. The Alliance had been terrified. No other species in their vast network possessed this trait. They couldn't predict what humanity might become, couldn't model their potential, couldn't control their development. So they chose isolation. They erected quantum barriers around the solar system, making it invisible to all forms of detection. They removed all traces of extraterrestrial life from Earth's vicinity. They condemned humanity to believe it was alone in the cosmos. But now, after 50,000 years, they were breaking their silence. The crystal's message continued, and with each revelation, the atmosphere in the room grew heavier. "The extinction wave," Elena read from the translated text, her voice barely above a whisper. "A phenomenon that emerged from the galactic core 20 years ago. It's not alive, not dead, not energy, not matter. It exists between states, consuming everything it touches by forcing it into quantum superposition and then collapsing it into nothingness." The Alliance had tried everything. Their most advanced weapons, their reality-bending technologies, their combined might. Nothing could stop the wave. It moved through space like a cosmic cancer, devouring entire star systems. Already, 4 of the 12 Alliance species had been completely wiped out. And then they remembered humanity. The species they had feared and isolated. The species with quantum consciousness. "They believe we're immune," Marcus said, studying the data on his screen. "Our unique neural structure might be the key to stopping this thing." Elena stood up, pacing the small conference room. "After abandoning us, after denying us our place among the stars, now they need us." The crystal's message ended with coordinates, a location just beyond Neptune's orbit where the Alliance wanted to meet. They were coming to Earth, the prison they had created, to beg for salvation from their former prisoners. Within hours, Earth's governments were informed. The United Nations convened an emergency session. Religious leaders struggled to reframe humanity's cosmic significance. Scientists worldwide began analyzing the quantum consciousness phenomenon. And in the depths of space, beyond the invisible barriers that had kept humanity caged, ancient vessels began their journey toward Earth. 2 weeks later, Dr. James Foster sat in the newly constructed First Contact facility in orbit around Earth. As Earth's leading quantum physicist, he had been chosen to lead the scientific delegation. The crystal from Mars sat in a specialized containment field before him, still pulsing with its otherworldly light. "They're here," announced Commander Sarah Mitchell, the military liaison. Through the observation windows, space itself seemed to ripple as 12 massive ships materialized. Each vessel was unique, representing the surviving members of the Sentinel Alliance. The lead ship, a crystalline construct that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, approached the station. A beam of light connected the two structures, and suddenly, they were no longer alone in the room. The being that appeared defied easy description. It stood 3 meters tall, its form shifting between solid and ethereal. Multiple arms gestured in complex patterns as it spoke, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "I am Herald Zix Theta of the Verdant Collective," it said, its mental voice tinged with what could only be described as shame. "I speak for the Sentinel Alliance. We come before you, humanity, to confess our greatest sin and beg for your aid." James stepped forward, the crystal in his hands. "We've decoded your message. We know what you did." The Herald's form flickered, colors shifting through spectrums human eyes couldn't normally perceive. "We were afraid. Your species exhibited potential beyond our understanding. When we discovered your quantum consciousness, we saw 2 possible futures. One where humanity transcended all known limits and reshaped the galaxy, another where that same power destroyed everything." "So you chose to cage us," Sarah interjected, her military training barely containing her anger. "You denied us the stars." "Yes," the Herald admitted. "And now, ironically, the very trait we feared may be the only thing that can save us all." The Herald gestured, and the room filled with holographic displays showing the extinction wave's progression through the galaxy. Entire civilizations vanished in its wake, their matter and energy dissipating into quantum foam. "The wave exists in a state of quantum superposition," the Herald explained. "It simultaneously is, and isn't, exists in all possible states until observed. But observation itself doesn't collapse it. Instead, it forces the observed matter into the same superposition state, effectively erasing it from reality." James studied the data, his mind racing. "But we're different. Our consciousness already exists partially in superposition." "Correct. Humanity's neural patterns naturally resist forced quantum states. You exist in a unique position, aware of multiple possibilities, but anchored in a single reality. The wave cannot force you into full superposition." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just immune to the extinction wave. They might be able to interact with it, understand it, possibly even stop it. But the question remained, would humanity help those who had betrayed them? "You kept us in the dark for 50,000 years, Sarah said. "You denied us our birthright, our chance to explore the stars. Why should we help you now?" The Herald's form dimmed. "Because despite our fears, despite our actions, you developed into something remarkable. You reached for the stars even when you couldn't see them. You dreamed of other worlds even when you believed you were alone. You never lost hope." More beings materialized in the room, representatives from each Alliance species, a crystalline entity that sang in mathematical frequencies, a cloud of sentient gas that formed geometric patterns, a mechanical being whose parts existed in different temporal states, each different, each afraid, each looking to humanity with something they had never expected to feel: hope. "The wave will reach Earth in 6 months, the Herald continued. "If we do nothing, if we fail to find a solution, all life in the galaxy will cease to exist. The universe will become a void of quantum uncertainty, neither alive nor dead." James looked at the assembled aliens, then at Sarah and the other human representatives. The weight of the galaxy's fate pressed down on them. Humanity had dreamed of this moment. First contact, proof they weren't alone. But not like this. Not as the last hope of those who had abandoned them. "We need time to decide," James finally said. "This affects all of humanity. We can't make this choice alone." The Herald nodded. "We understand. But please, remember, the wave cares nothing for justice or revenge. It consumes all equally. Whatever our sins, whatever our fears, we now share a common enemy." As the alien delegation faded from view, their ships maintaining position just beyond Earth's orbit, humanity faced its greatest decision. The species that had been left behind, isolated and forgotten, now held the fate of the galaxy in their hands. The question wasn't whether they could help, it was whether they would. When the forgotten rise. The United Nations Assembly had never seen such unity. Representatives from every nation sat in absolute silence as President Chen of the Global Council addressed the gathering. Behind her, massive screens displayed the data from the Sentinel Alliance, star charts showing the extinction wave's inexorable advance toward Earth. "The question before us isn't about forgiveness," President Chen stated, her voice carrying across the hushed chamber. "It's about who we choose to be. Do we let bitterness define us, or do we rise above the wrongs done to us?" In the months following first contact, humanity had changed. The revelation that they weren't alone, but had been deliberately isolated, sparked a transformation unlike anything in human history. Old conflicts seemed petty in the face of cosmic abandonment. Nations that had been enemies for generations now worked together, united by a shared sense of betrayal and purpose. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood before the assembly, the Martian crystal glowing softly in its containment field beside her. "My team has been working with the Alliance's quantum specialists. We've confirmed that human neural patterns do resist the wave's effects, but more importantly, we've discovered something the Alliance missed." She activated a holographic display showing brain scans from thousands of volunteers. Human consciousness doesn't just resist quantum superposition. It can actively collapse quantum states through observation. We don't just survive the wave. We can potentially neutralize it. The assembly erupted in discussion. If Elena was right, humanity wasn't just immune. They were the antidote. James Foster took the podium next. "The Alliance has offered us full technological exchange, immediate membership in their confederation, and access to all their scientific knowledge. They're desperate, and they're willing to give us everything they denied us for 50 millennia. But at what cost?" asked Ambassador Martinez from South America. "They caged us out of fear. What happens after we save them? Do they fear us again?" The debate raged for hours. Some argued for unconditional aid, the moral high ground that would prove humanity's superiority. Others demanded guarantees, reparations for 50,000 years of isolation. A few even suggested letting the Alliance face the consequences of their actions. Finally, a young representative from Africa, Dr. Amara Okafor, proposed the solution that would change everything. "We help them," she said, "but on our terms. Humanity leads this fight. We don't join their alliance. They join ours. The age of the Sentinel Alliance ends. The age of the Terran Confederation begins." The vote was unanimous. 3 days later, aboard the Joint Command Station established at the edge of the solar system, humanity's terms were presented to the Alliance. Harold Zix Theta and the other alien representatives listened in silence as Admiral Chen outlined humanity's conditions. First, the quantum barriers around our solar system will be permanently disabled. Second, all Alliance technology and knowledge will be freely shared with humanity. Third, command of the anti-wave operation will be under human leadership. Fourth, when this crisis ends, the Sentinel Alliance dissolves, and a new confederation forms with Earth as an equal, no, a leading, member. The crystalline being that served as the Alliance's military commander resonated with harmonic frequencies that translated as surprise. "You would take command of our fleets, our technologies, our 5 million years of experience." "Yes," Admiral Chen replied simply. "You chose to keep us in the dark. Now you'll follow our light." The herald's form flickered through various hues before settling on a deep blue. "If this is what it takes to save our species, we agree. Humanity will lead." What followed was the greatest technology transfer in galactic history. Human scientists, their minds uniquely suited to quantum thinking, absorbed and improved upon millions of years of alien advancement in mere weeks. Technologies that had taken the Alliance millennia to develop were reimagined and enhanced by human creativity. Dr. Sarah Martinez, a former physicist from Mexico City, made the breakthrough that would save the galaxy. Working with quantum field equations that the Alliance had deemed unsolvable, she discovered that human consciousness could create a standing wave that interfered with the extinction wave's quantum state. "It's like noise-canceling headphones," she explained to the Joint Command Staff. But for reality itself, when the wave tries to force matter into superposition, we broadcast an inverse quantum signature that collapses it back into a defined state. The plan was audacious. Humans would be placed aboard every Alliance vessel, their minds linked through quantum communicators to form a galaxy-spanning neural network. When the wave arrived, they would act as one, their combined consciousness creating a barrier that would force the wave to collapse into a harmless state. But first, they had to test it. The Alliance had been tracking a tendril of the wave approaching the Kepler 442 system. 3 dead worlds orbited a dying star, perfect for the test. Commander David Zhang led the mission, piloting a hybrid vessel that combined human intuition with Alliance technology. Approaching the wave's edge, Zhang reported, his voice steady despite the incomprehensible danger ahead. Through the view screen, space itself seemed to writhe and twist as reality broke down at the quantum level. "Neural link established," confirmed Dr. Peddle from Earth. "You're connected to 10,000 volunteers. Their consciousness is anchored to yours." Zhang felt the connection. Thousands of human minds joined with his, their quantum consciousness forming a unified field. As the ship approached the wave, he experienced reality from countless perspectives simultaneously. It should have been overwhelming, but instead, it felt natural. This was what humanity had evolved for. Contact in 3, 2, 1. The wave hit them like a tsunami of unreality. Zhang felt it trying to tear his existence apart, to scatter his consciousness across infinite possibilities. But the human neural network held firm. Through their linked minds, they observed the wave not as victims, but as conscious arbiters of reality. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Where the wave met human consciousness, it collapsed. The writhing chaos of quantum uncertainty solidified into normal space. The tendril of destruction that had consumed 3 star systems dissolved like mist before the sun. "It worked," John whispered, then louder, "It worked. The wave is neutralizing." Across the galaxy, celebrations erupted. The Alliance species, who had lived in terror for 20 years, watched in awe as humanity accomplished what their greatest technologies couldn't. The species they had feared and isolated had become their salvation. But humanity's true character showed in what happened next. Instead of seeking revenge or domination, Earth's leaders proposed something unprecedented. The new Terran Confederation wouldn't be ruled by any single species. Instead, it would be governed by a council with rotating leadership, where each species contributed according to their strengths. Humanity would lead the Quantum Consciousness Project, but all species would share in governance and exploration. "We were alone for 50,000 years," President Chen announced at the founding ceremony. "We know the pain of isolation. We won't inflict that on others." The Battle of the Galactic Core, as historians would later call it, lasted 6 months. Human volunteers, working with Alliance fleets, formed a living barrier against the extinction wave. Node by node, system by system, they pushed back the tide of unreality. Each victory came at a cost. Human minds burning out from the strain. Volunteers sacrificing themselves to hold the line. Elena Vasquez led the final assault. Standing on the bridge of the flagship Harmony, she coordinated 1 million human minds in the largest quantum consciousness network ever assembled. Around her, representatives from every Alliance species worked in perfect coordination, their fear of humanity transformed into awe and gratitude. "All nodes report ready," announced Zix Theta, who had become Melena's closest advisor. "The wave's core is ahead." This is where it began. Through the view screen, they could see it, a wound in reality itself, a place where the fundamental constants of the universe had been torn apart. The extinction wave's source. "Link established," Elena reported. 1 million minds, one purpose. As the fleet approached the cosmic wound, Alina felt the full weight of human consciousness behind her. Not just the volunteers in the fleet, but billions on Earth and in the colonies, all lending their unique quantum signature to the effort. Humanity's gift, their curse that had kept them isolated, now burned bright as a beacon of hope. The Wave's core fought back with a fury that defied description. Reality warped and twisted. Time flowed backwards and forwards simultaneously. Matter became energy, became thought, became nothing. But human consciousness held firm, an anchor in the storm of chaos. And then, in a moment that would be remembered for eons, Alina spoke a single word: observe. 1,000,000 human minds focused on the wound in reality. They didn't fight it or flee from it. They simply observed it, collapsing its quantum uncertainty through the mere act of conscious attention. The wound shuddered, contracted, and then, like a bubble popping, it ceased to exist. The extinction wave, the terror that had consumed 1/3 of the galaxy, simply ended. Not with an explosion or a collapse, but with the quiet certainty of human observation making it real, defined, and therefore finite. In the aftermath, as celebration swept across the galaxy, the true transformation began. The quantum barriers around Earth fell, revealing a universe full of wonders humanity had been denied. Ships built with hybrid technology began exploring regions no Alliance vessel had ever reached. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers, their unique perspectives solving problems that had stymied the Alliance for millennia. The Terran Confederation grew into something neither purely human nor purely alien, but something new. Trade routes connected Earth to worlds with crystal cities and gas giant intelligence nodes. Human artists collaborated with beings who saw in different spectrums, creating works that transcended species boundaries. Children grew up learning that the universe was vast and full of friends, both old and new. Herald Zix Theta, in one of the last acts of the Sentinel Alliance before its formal dissolution, presented humanity with a gift. Deep beneath Mars, where Alina had found the first crystal, lay a vast repository of knowledge. Every moment of humanity's isolated development, every achievement, every struggle. The Alliance had been watching, recording, preparing. "We kept you isolated," Zix Theta said at the presentation ceremony, "but we never stopped believing in your potential. This archive is our apology and our acknowledgement. You were always meant for the stars." As the years passed, humanity's role in the galaxy evolved. No longer the abandoned children or the reluctant saviors, they became the bridge builders, the quantum consciousness that connected diverse species in ways previously impossible. The gift that had kept them isolated became the foundation for a new age of galactic unity. Dr. Alina Vasquez, now elderly but still vibrant, stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the hub of the Terran Confederation. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she watched ships from 100 worlds coming and going, carrying trade, knowledge, and friendship across the stars. Beside her stood Zix Theta, its form now familiar and comforting. "Do you regret it?" the alien asked. "The years of isolation, the pain of abandonment?" Alina smiled, thinking of all humanity had achieved, both alone and with others. Every species has its path. Ours led through isolation to connection, through abandonment to leadership, through fear to hope. We are who we are because of our journey, not in spite of it. In the distance, a new exploration vessel prepared for launch. The TCS Discovery, crewed by humans and aliens working side by side, would venture beyond the galactic rim to explore regions never before visited. On its hull, inscribed in 100 languages, were the words that had become the Terran Confederation's motto: from isolation to unity, from darkness to light, from forgotten to found. As the ship's quantum drives engaged, bending space around it in ways that human consciousness made possible, Alina felt the truth of those words. Humanity had been left behind by the galaxy, abandoned and forgotten. But in that abandonment, they had found their strength. In that isolation, they had developed the very trait that would save all life: The galaxy had left humanity behind, and in doing so, had ensured its own salvation. For when the forgotten rise, when the abandoned return, they bring with them gifts that comfort could never have fostered. Humanity's quantum consciousness, born of loneliness, nurtured by hope, and perfected by dreams of stars they couldn't reach, had become the galaxy's greatest treasure. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun, and at its heart stood humanity, no longer alone, no longer abandoned, but finally, truly home among the stars.